United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Galloway,
Here.
Lennon, Martin,
Here.
Piana, Mayor Coulter.
Here. Thank you. Councilwoman Piana had indicated that she had a work engagement this evening, and Councilman Lennon is feeling under the weather, so I know that they would appreciate an excused absence.
I would move that we excuse the absences of Councilman Lennon and Councilwoman Piana.
Support. All right. We don't need a roll call on that, do we? We're just a unanimous consent? All right. Very good. Next item of business would be the approval of the agenda. Any changes or additions to the agenda this evening? Or a motion would be in order.
I would move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Support.
All right. Moved and supported. Any discussion? Sherilyn, call the roll, please.
Councilmembers Galloway,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Next item of business is presentations. We have 3 presentations this evening. First one from the Ferndale Public Schools. Is there someone from the public schools? Maybe they didn't make it tonight. Didn't think I saw anyone. All right, if they show up, we'll give them an opportunity to speak. Next is presentation, resolutions of congratulations for Captain Toit and Lieutenant Mikowski of our fire department. Are either of them here this evening? I don't know that they are, but I don't see them. But I'd like to read, they're identical resolutions, and so but I would like to read them because we have been encouraging our command staff at the fire department to attend Eastern Michigan University's Fire Staff and Command program. It's an excellent program. It's very difficult and challenging, and both of these gentlemen graduated recently. So let me read one of the proclamations in both of their names. Mayor David Coulter, on behalf of the Ferndale City Council, extends the city's congratulations to Lieutenant Ronald Mikowski and Captain John Toit on the occasion of graduation from the Eastern Michigan University Fire Staff and Command program on Friday, October 25th, 2013. They dedicated time and energy to the School of Fire Staff and Command program, which is a comprehensive 350-hour program that targets senior leadership within their department. With technology advancing at a rapid rate, senior fire officers must be prepared with the knowledge, skills, and abilities afforded private industry. The program takes the fire officers beyond traditional operational methods and exposes them to conceptual thinking and problem solving. The program addresses key issues in the fire service with a focus on leadership, planning and decision-making, human resource management, administering the fire agency, and critical situations in homeland security. Lieutenant Mikowski and Captain Toit's time and energy will be a direct asset to the Ferndale Fire Department and bringing forward a new generation of leadership. They're a credit to our community and the organization, and it is with heartfelt appreciation that we celebrate this achievement. So we will make sure that they receive those congratulations. I see the fire chief walking in. We'll make sure he gets some for those. But it really is an accomplishment, a very comprehensive program. We're very proud of both of them. I see that our county commissioner walked in, so maybe we'll let her take the place of the public schools this evening who weren't able to make it. County Commissioner Helene Zach. I'm guessing you might have an update from the county perspective for us this evening. Good evening.
Thank you. So one of the jobs that I do is I serve on the SEMCOG board. I'm one of the county commissioners there. And I am leaving cards at the back. There is a walking and biking plan out there that SEMCOG has put out. And we'd love to have comment cards, and I think it's a very critical piece to Ferndale. So I'm leaving cards with with website and so forth, so that people will comment. Also, the regional transportation plan. Next week, there are meetings for people to comment on how the bus would run down Woodward, and I do encourage people to do that. I've heard from some residents in several communities about rats again, and I do want to talk to people in Ferndale. Rats are not unique to the city of Ferndale. They're all over the county, and there is a county education campaign If you go onto the county website, www.oakgov.com, into the Human Services Department, there's all sorts of educational materials there. And, you know, yes, we do have problems here in Ferndale, but again, it's all over the place. And there's things that each one of us individually can do. For example, if you like to feed the birds, you shouldn't be doing it because the droppings are feeding rodents. And so you either figure out a bird feeder that doesn't have any spillover, or you don't do it, being one example. What do you do with your firewood? You know, are you stacking it? Are there holes? So these are the types of things that I want to remind people about. And I know that this is a collective effort among city officials, all of us trying to decrease the rodent population. It's not just Ferndale doing it on its own. I also want to let people know, again, animal control issues continue on. We did pass a couple of resolutions about transparency and adoption-friendly policies. There's still some opportunity to improve things, and we've continued to hear from residents about what's going on there, and we hope to improve the situation. And we're still looking at the feral cat issue, and there's a third resolution that we are looking how to handle that effectively throughout the county. So that's it. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a safe holiday time. Any questions?
Any questions of Commissioner Zach? Appreciate you coming by as always.
Thank you.
All right. And our final presentation is the Downtown Development Authority, coming off a very busy and active weekend. I'm sure they have lots of things to share. Chris?
Oh, we do. Good afternoon. That's how messed up I still am. Chris Hughes, Communications and Marketing for the DDA. Oh, well. So much for being cool. I don't know which way to go, but we're going to start, first of all, with reminding everybody that this weekend is a busy holiday weekend, and we want to encourage everybody to shop downtown Ferndale on Small Business Saturday. That is a huge day for our local businesses, all individual, unique retailers with tons of stuff that you can buy, things to enjoy, eat, drink, and be merry in downtown Ferndale. There's nowhere else you need to go. Also want to remind anybody that's out there, businesses, that on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. we will have our FernNet meeting, our monthly B2B networking, and we're going to showcase what businesses are going to be doing to promote themselves in the holiday season in the fourth quarter. That will be held at Rouge Makeup and Nails, and coffee conversation and donuts are all free. I guess the main thing that I'm really here to talk about, though, is a very busy weekend in downtown Ferndale. Last weekend we had just tons of people on hand. We had a wonderful, brand-new first-year event. We were very pleased with it. We got great feedback from our participants and from the people that helped us out. Just a little overview on it. We had representation from 79 cities, 4 states, 2 countries. 68% of our entrants were female, so I don't know what that was about. Maybe it was a little too cute. We know we have some tweaks to do, like things like day glow necklaces don't glow when it's 28 degrees out. So we had a few different things that we had to take care of, but mostly because we're looking at Thanksgiving now, we want to take a moment to thank all of our volunteers individually and as quick as I can. We're going to take it from the top because we had sponsors. We had over 70 volunteers that came out and worked for us. So our sponsors, we had Gage Products, Allstate, Stat Fitness, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Everdry, State Farm, Giffords Webster, Credit Union One, Level One, Michigan Foot and Ankle, Run Detroit, Home Depot, Design Struck, Danny's Irish Pub, State of the Art Framing and Gallery, Greydale Chiropractic, Treat Dreams, Go Comedy, Dino's, Wetmore's, Western Market, and 8 Degrees Play-O. We want to give a special thanks to Digital Lane Photography, Ed, Amy, Doug, and Mary, and those pictures are now on our website at downtownferndale.com. We couldn't go any further without helping the awesome, most awesome DPW, Lloyd, Rocky, Jason, and the gang for just doing everything that we needed to be done and doing it in happiness, even though it was cold out there. To the fire department and the CERT team who made sure our event was safe. To the police department and the auxiliary. To the recreation department. To Pam Beliver and Michelle Parody of FAB. To Beth Hussey and the entire staff of OEB. Oh, One-Eyed Betties. Brian Kelly and Metallic Claus, which thank you all for coming out for that tree lighting, which is unlike any other tree lighting, I would dare say, anywhere in the world. That was awesome. The Holiday Hoof Planning Committee, we got to thank them. Veronica Lujic, Nicole Raphael, and Ed Milleroff, who spent countless hours putting together all those obstacles, building them, hauling them, all that good stuff. Ashley Lynch, Christy Nelson, Chris Ambler, Lisa Bailey, Annika Norris, and Scott Wright. Our other awesome volunteers, including Ferndale High School girls soccer team, Rachel Wynn, Nia Dubon Robinson, Cartier Bomar, excuse me for messing up your name. We had a group from Ferndale area runners, Kelly and Steve Kachnowski, Ashley Lehman, Brian Clark, Joan Ritter, E. Brian DeLeon, John Nocera, Karen Ames, Joshua James, Catherine James, Kathleen Michaud, Catherine Balser, a lot of Catherines, Kim Michaud, Jacqueline Kilbride, Eric Bird, and Sarah Schwartz, Carmen Augusto. We had the Derby Girls, Shannon Pettit, Michelle Patterson, Jordan Davis, Carrie Stefanski, Abby Robinson, Zee Mills, Catherine Prater, Linda Schaller, A.T. Kyle and Linda. And finally, we had Meg Berger, Angelique Walamaki, Michelle Lindemeyer, Heather Mokalian, Jacqueline Ostrowski, Krista Reed, Audrey Aho, Crystal Aho, Tracy Daniel, Danny Kizzy, David Taylor, Leslie Nichols, Donna Alherd, Dan Malderoy, Lori Lindstrom, Jennifer Kelton, Matthew Buck, Kelly Melanovich, wait a second, tell me if I read these, Anna Marie Young, Christopher Young, can you remember who I said? I can't, but they were all there. Kara Kopke, Alyssa Corrado, Don Hamilton, Rick Axe, Michael Hennis, Mary Frances Kilcoyne, Francine Haysham, Sandy Rapolo, Tina Yee, Jim Rebo, Brooke Stevenson, Bill Wilcock, Gina Bomarito, Jason Atkins, Stephanie Atkins, and Rylan Pavel. We couldn't have done it without them. We thank them from the bottom of our heart. All the runners thanked everybody that was there. It was an awesome first year event. We will be tweaking it, and it'll come back better than ever next year. I also want to remind everybody, finally, December 14th, save the date, come down for Holiday Ice Festival. We've got 50 Sub-Zero superheroes, and including, starting with the big guy, Santa Claus, all kinds of fun stuff. Thank you very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate everything that the city, by the way, on that list, City of Ferndale, sorry. Didn't mean to overlook that. Thank you. Good night.
That answers the question. How many people does it take to put on an event? There you go. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. All right, that concludes our presentations unless anyone from the schools has shown up, but I don't think so. All right, we'll move on to a public hearing. We have an amendment for the redevelopment liquor license for Black Owl LLC. And April, do you want to introduce or is this Sherilyn? I'm sorry, Sherilyn, do you want to introduce this item?
Not a problem. In September, the City Council held a public hearing and adopted a resolution recommending a new resort Class C liquor license for the Black Owl to be located at 345 East 9 Mile Road. Subsequently, one of the requirements of that type of license is to contact the owners of licenses in escrow, and we have some owners that are difficult to get in touch with here. So because of that inherent difficulty, the applicants are now requesting that we go back and consider them for a redevelopment license under MCL 436-1521A1B, which is the typical redevelopment license that we have done in the downtown. The city's Liquor Review Committee met last week. Criteria is the same for both types of licenses, so Black Owl is perfectly in compliance with the city's rules and regulations. But we do need to hold another public hearing to give the public a chance to comment on a redevelopment as opposed to a resort license.
So with that introduction, I'm going to open the public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address council on the redevelopment liquor license for Black Owl LLC? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Brock. I live at 357 Bester Street, which is just right around the corner. And I've noticed over the 12 years or so that I've lived there, a steady increase in parking on the streets. We've been a little bit insulated on our street. One block down is particularly bad. My concern is that with the movement of business closer to where we are, that we're not going to have accessible street parking anymore for the residents. And so for that reason, I wanted to know what kinds of things are you thinking about to deal with the effect on residents?
The petitioners are here.
I'm sorry?
I said the applicants are here.
And
If
the
they would like to.
Yeah, the applicants are here. I'm guessing that was part of the discussion.
We do, yep. Did you want to finish the questions, or do you want, I can respond?
We can address them why don't we address it now?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, how are you? Good to see you again. Good.
Scott Myrick and Tom Bloom.
Yes, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So impact on residents. I know that was part of the discussion at the Liquor Control Committee. You want to talk a little bit about how those things are being managed?
Well, currently we have, with the business at 345, we have 36 parking spots on site. We've worked a deal with Credit Union 1 for the parking lot on the corner of Leland and 9 Mile also to use their parking after 5 o'clock. Also with this underutilized parking that we have here at the city offices and stuff, I don't see that should be a problem whatsoever.
And you had addressed that last time. There is more than enough parking, both at your location and the lot that you're going to lease or rent from Credit Union 1 to accommodate all
I think we have like 68 parking spots that we control.
Mm-hmm. So there should be no reason that a resident would need to go to Vester Street to park on 9 Mile Road when there are 2 lots adjacent to that facility, correct?
Correct.
What is the capacity of the facility? I take it 68.
So,
Capacity of our facility?
of your restaurant, how many spaces do you need for the size of your restaurant? How many spaces are required?
We feel
for
that the spaces that we have are certainly adequate. Plus that we have obviously the city parking over here, the library parking, the street parking along 9 Mile, which puts us at about 280 parking spots within 60 yards of our building, which in our survey over the last 6 months are never used past a certain time in the daytime. And we're very cognizant. We've been in business here for 13 years. About and at Toast we have 12 parking spots, so we're very, very aware of the neighbors and and where they park and where our folks park. And so if ever anything ever became a problem, obviously we would address it and come up with a solution.
Anyone else who would like to address council? Yeah. Come on up. Give us your name and where you're from.
Karen Plants, 365 Vester. The problem is nobody wants to pay for parking, and so I don't care how many parking spots there are legitimately. People park on our street because it's free. Now, the block between Leland and Bermuda, 3 of the residents have permit parking in front of their houses now. And unless you're going to have permit-only parking on the entire street, one, there aren't enough spaces. When I have people over on weekends, they have to park 2 streets over because people are taking up all the free spaces. And there's the noise issue. It's bad enough on Dream Cruise weekend, but to have the business so close to us noise-wise. Toast is an entirely different matter. Toast closes at 3 o'clock. It's the evening traffic. Right now, most weeknights, you have trouble going up and down Vester because there's parking on both sides. So between the parking and the noise, I'm opposed to this. I love the bars in Ferndale. I also like to be able to drive up and down my street. As it is right now, without this business, if I'm coming home from the west, I usually have to go around to Hilton and come in my house from the east because traffic coming down Vester is so bad.
Thank you. I might just ask the chief, I know you guys review these for lots of different reasons, but do you also analyze these from a traffic impact perspective? And if so, do you anticipate an adverse impact from traffic from this establishment, chief? And if I'm putting you on the spot and that's not what you analyze it for, just say.
We did not analyze that, but I do agree that on event evenings and days that we do, that Vester is very much like West Saratoga. It is a narrow street, parking on both sides, and we do run into parking. Now, whether or not this establishment will cause that on a daily basis, only time will tell. We'll have to see what the traffic patterns look like and how they would, but it would be difficult to make it, without that ever having been that type of a business, to make a determination whether or not traffic will be impacted to that degree. I would guess not, but I really don't want to go out there and say that it will be as bad. It may impact it, but I would suggest probably not as bad as on an event day.
Just to clarify, too, this particular restaurant establishment has an unusual amenity in the fact that it has parking within its own footprint, of which I don't believe they're getting charged for, so that would encourage people to park in those locations. 68 spots is quite a few, especially if you have 2 or 3 people coming in a carload. So while we absolutely recognize what's going on in Investor Street, especially since we've had some more development in that particular area, that between their agreement with Credit Union 1 and their own spots, that's why the committee felt that the parking wouldn't be as much of a problem as it would be if it was on West 9 Mile.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to come up here and say, is that those 68 spots are actually free parking. They're not meter parking, so it would encourage guests to park there as opposed to going all the way over to the Vester. I guess my only other question would be, how do you control those lots to ensure that the restaurant guests are parking there and not someone going to the Comedy Castle or some other establishment?
Well, we haven't exactly figured out who would police the lots, but policing the lots is something we're looking into as far as validating some sort of parking stamp or doing something. Anyone could park at our lot and, end up at Woodward Avenue Brewery or anywhere else in the
right,
town.
I can imagine that.
As if they, with any other parking spot.
Right.
We encourage folks to attend many places when they're downtown, but we certainly, it's in our interest to make sure that our parking is used for our business, and if it becomes a problem, obviously we're definitely.
And I could see that being a greater problem in the future. Right now, our greatest parking issues are on the west side, frankly, and the east side tends to not. Those lots don't fill up as quickly, and so I would be surprised if that was a huge issue immediately. But as development moves down East 9 Mile, which it is,
right, yeah, if we realize that, folks can't park on our lots, we'll take some sort of prohibitive action and police it.
Anyone else from the public that would like to address council on this issue this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment, and I'll open it up to council's discretion on this item. Are there questions?
I just have one question.
Of council,
Is there a distinct difference from the city's perspective? I know the requirements are the same. Is the only reason that the resort license didn't work that we couldn't get hold of previous license owners? Yes. Is that the issue? Okay. Wow. All right. What I would move to recommend to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission approval of the request from Black Owl LLC for an on-premises redevelopment liquor license under MLC 436.1521A 1B to be located at 345 East 9 Mile Road, Ferndale, Oakland County, Michigan, above all others.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Galloway. Discussion on this item. Obviously, we've had this discussion just not long ago, but I would reiterate that part of what makes me comfortable is that you have been operating a business in Ferndale for 13 years, and you've followed all the rules, and you've been very cooperative. And I know you also operate a business in Birmingham that has a very good reputation, and your reputation is as a good business owners. And so we trust that if an issue comes up, you'll work with us to resolve it. So appreciate your investing in Ferndale. Madam Clerk.
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Next item of business will be call to audience. Call to audience is 30 minutes now and more time if needed at the end of the meeting. 3 minutes to say whatever you'd like to say on any topic that's not on the agenda, because I'll give you an opportunity to speak to that when we get to that part of the agenda. So just come on up, give us your name and your address if you're comfortable doing that, or write your address on the sheet in the back and let us know what's on your mind this evening. Good evening.
How are you? Deborah Young,
Hi, Deborah.
440 West Troy. I am here to discuss the resident parking zone. I understand what these ladies are talking about. Approximately 2 years ago, we had that instated on my street on West Troy. Enforcement was sporadic. At best, for 6 months, we've seen no enforcement at all for about 18 months. A year into the program, we were sent a letter that said that now we would have to pay to obtain our stickers. We came to a meeting and we said, why should we pay? You don't enforce it. You let people park here for free, but the residents have to pay. So they gave us a year free. Now we're approaching the end of the year where there's no enforcement whatsoever. We have a parking lot on the end of our street that most of the time is half empty. People park on our street because they don't want to pay for parking. Now, I've talked to Joe, I've talked to many times about this. I've talked to the chief of police. There's no enforcement. I don't understand why we have a program that we do not enforce.
Chief, not to put you on the spot again, but do you want to talk about the enforcement issue of enforcement in the residential parking zones?
Well, we do have the residential parking zone, and during the daytime is primarily where we're having most of the problems. I did review some of the citations. It is not as prevalent as the violations are not as prevalent as it was when we first started it. We do have some limitations with the number of personnel that we have, so we are talking with the city manager about start putting more hours that are dedicated solely to that. We haven't quite done that at this point. We are in the launch of several different initiatives with the parking enforcement program. But that being said, also, we don't give that residential parking zone the same attention that we did when we first started the program. It would be ridiculous to say that we're hitting it as hard as we did originally, but we're also not getting as many complaints as we were before we started the program. So this type of information, if it gets supplied to either Joe or myself, we can always make sure that the word gets out to our parking enforcement officers to hit it stronger. It's always best to know from the people that live there what those hours are that we're getting the most type of violations. But that being said, we can't be there. We don't have the number of parking enforcement officers that we can cover during the entire period of time that it's open, and do a credible job in the lots as well. So it is still a program that is we're still working on it. We haven't perfected it, and I don't know that we'll make everybody happy with it with the limitations that we have, but we can do better, and we'll probably have to have some more communication with the neighbors there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm Karen Plansinger. I'm pro-law enforcement. My father was a police officer. Most of my friends are police officers. I'm very pro. I was a prosecutor for 20 years. Wow. Okay. So I'm pro-police officer. Perhaps if they'd reassign the police officer who always seems to be behind the counter at 9 Mile Hilton Party Store to do traffic enforcement, they would have the personnel. Perhaps if they would watch the officers who park side by side having conversation, driver's door to driver's door, sometimes right across the street from our police department in the court parking lot, or now Go Comedy parking lot that I see consistently, we would have the officers to enforce parking.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else would like to address council this evening? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Paul Kish, 707 West Hazelhurst. I met with April Lynch on November 20th, and I would simply like to compliment her on how she treated me. She said she would walk me to the door, wished me a happy Thanksgiving. I compliment you on that. And I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving.
And to you as well, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you.
Good evening.
562 West Oak Ridge. The reason we're here...
And what's your name, sir?
Matt Ruzin, R-U-Z-Z-I-N.
Thanks,
okay?
Yep.
The reason I'm here is my girlfriend and I, my girlfriend, it's her house, I live with her, but anyway, we received a water bill that was triple what it normally is.
Okay.
And we obviously were a little concerned about that, so we contacted the Public Works Department, and they went over the bill with us, and they said that there was a spike in our usage. Well, the spike happened to be on 2 days that we weren't even in town. We were up at Montague, Michigan, picking up her son from Blue Lake, Michigan. And on that particular day, they metered us for 7,614 gallons of water. Okay?
Oh, my.
No,
Right.
7,674 gallons. Now, we submitted paperwork to show that we were indeed in Montague, Michigan, the 16th, 17th, and 18th. We first contacted the people at Public Works, and they said, well, the first thing that the lady, Carol, I believe, the lady that answered the phone, asked if the neighbor had a pool. Okay? Does the neighbor have a hot tub?
Right.
Does the neighbor have a large garden? And I explained to her that the person that lives next to us happens to be the chief of police.
And does he have a hot tub? Yeah.
Maybe he has one in his basement that I don't know about. But then she implied that the other neighbor, and the other neighbor happens to be a City of Ferndale public school. Now, I went through the process of going and getting the meter calibrated and everything else, and I went up the chain, went back and forth, and in so many words or less, they said, you use that water. If it's going to cause a hardship for you, we'll just spread it out over payments. Now, in order for us to use the 7,647 gallons in that day, they gave us a meter reading, and from, I believe it was 10 a.m., here it is, from 9 o'clock to 10 a.m., 509 gallons. From 10 to 11, 509 gallons. All the way up till 2 to 3, 516. Then it drops to 254, 262, 254, back up to 516, down to 254, 262. And again, there's an oddness in the pattern here. Jumps back up, and when we were having dinner with the former president of the Ferndale Education Foundation, we went through 519 gallons in Montague, Michigan. Now, I'm a reasonable guy, okay? Even if a toilet runs for a little bit, it's not going to go through 8.6 gallons a minute. And the problem is that every single time we've asked them to show us proof that we actually used that water, that all that they come back and say is that the equipment is fine. Well, obviously the equipment is not fine. I went through all the hoops. We went through everything that we could with reasonable people, and I know that they're just doing their job, and I also know they're short-staffed. But I'm standing in front of this board as a reasonable man to say 7,600 gallons in a 24-hour period when we weren't even there, that's enough to fill up a medium-sized swimming pool. And if a resident is going through 509 gallons, is there any way for the Public Works Department to look at it and say, there's an issue here. Either Mr. Jones has passed out from a heart attack and he's flooding his house, or there's an issue with something going on outside. The absorbency rate on the soil would not constitute 509 gallons. It would have.
So I'm going to ask our city manager, or would this be a Lloyd question? What is his recourse at this point? Lloyd, in your estimation, what is his recourse? Stand up just so that we can hear you in the mic.
From a scientific standpoint, it puts the Public Works in a difficult position because all we can do is analyze the meter and ensure that the meter is working properly. In this case, that is what we did. We invited the homeowner in to witness the test, which they did, and the meter was accurate. Puts us in a difficult position because not all properties are alike, and we cannot verify what goes on in the home. As a courtesy, we can go out and take a look and see if we see anything obvious, such as a leak and that kind of thing. But we've gone through all of the processes that we do to validate that the meter is working properly, that the reads are correct, and so that's the process we take because there's a lot of things that go on in the properties, whether they're leaks or people using their home, they use it in different ways, their water in different ways. So we're not in a position, and I don't think any community is, where we can explain how water is used. All we can do is ensure the resident that the meter is working properly. And for whatever reason, if there's any doubt in our ability to validate that meter, we are more than happy to send that out to an outside source to have it certified. And if it comes back that the meter is inaccurate, the resident would get a credit or customer would get a credit. And then, but if it comes back that it is accurate, then the cost of the test is passed on to the customer. And so that's a normal process here and in most communities. Not that we deny that they were, they were at another location, but all we can do is ensure that the meter is monitoring the water properly. In this case, we did.
Do we have precedence for this kind of a situation? I mean, I understand what he's saying about the meter working, but I mean, common sense would dictate that something unusual happened during this period of time. Something. And if it was a leak, it would still be happening, right? Somebody would have had to fix it to get it to stop.
Here's the thing: is they don't come and take a physical read off of that meter. Okay, it's done wirelessly.
Right.
Okay,
that's correct.
So, the meter itself, he has yet to even produce any information to show me that the water metered. There's no physical number on there. You installed this meter 3 years ago. You can go all the way back to when it was and then show me where the 7,800 gallons were. But the problem is he talks about processes in which, we did this and we did that. Well, that's all fine and dandy. I've had several conversations with Lloyd, and the problem is that he hasn't showed me what process he has gone through to even prove that he looked at anything. He hasn't said, well, usually what we do is this, this, and this, and here's the documentation that I did that. All that he says is, we checked and it's fine. If it's going to be a hardship, we'll spread the payments over for you. No, I think that it's reasonable to say, there are glitches, there are problems. There are problems with wireless remotes. There are problems with wireless signals. And it is possible that this signal, although the meter didn't meter 7,000 gallons in that day, it's possible that the computer or the software or some kind of glitch caused this read.
So I think what I'd like to do is have our city manager look into your particular case. Do you have his name and address? And give us a recommendation, and keeping in mind that common sense dictates that crazy things don't happen without a reason. But I'd appreciate it if your office would look into this particular instance and give us a recommendation as to how you. And so
Certainly.
April's office will be in contact with you.
I thank you for your time and
We
consideration.
appreciate you coming out.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much. Yep. Anyone else like to address council this evening? How are you?
Well, how are you?
Good to see you. We're doing well.
Good to see you guys. Good evening, everyone. Council, Mayor. I'm Robert Wittenberg. I live over in Oak Park, your friendly neighbor to the west. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Berkeley Holiday Parade Committee and wanted to invite you, as well as everyone here in the audience, and if you're watching at home, it's coming up. It's the 9th annual. It's Saturday, December 7th. It's a family-friendly event. And during the day, we have from 2 to 5 p.m., there's a petting zoo, which is free. We have from 1 to 4:30, there's a vintage trolley, and it's offering rides up and down. It'll be Coolidge to 12 Mile, so you'll be able to go there. And then 5:30 p.m. starts the actual Holiday Lights Parade, and that will go from Bacon Street all the way to City Hall, which is at 12 and Coolidge. So after that, we'll have a tree lighting ceremony. The kids will be able to visit with Santa, and they're encouraged to bring their wish list if they would like. And then also afterwards, on the corner of Rosemont and Coolidge, there's a horse-drawn carriage, and you can take rides on that as well. That is the only thing that actually does cost. So if you want to do that, bring a little bit of extra money with you. But everything else is free. It's a family-friendly event, and we invite you and anyone else that wants to join to come by. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sounds fun. Good evening again.
Good evening, Council. I just want to take the opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry, Greg Poliga. Councilman-elect, actually, yeah. I just want to take a moment to thank Chief Collins and the police department for allowing me this past Saturday, to do a drive around the city with Sergeant Petak. It was quite interesting. Went out from 10 p.m. to a little after 2 a.m. Wrote a number of parking tickets, a number of impeding traffic tickets, and there were a few incidents. I don't know what I can and can't talk about, so I will just say that there were a few interesting incidents. But at all times, all the police officers were very professional and courteous to everyone that they came in contact. And I wasn't surprised, but I was very happy to see that. So I want to, again, thank Chief Collins and Sergeant Petak for allowing me to do that this past weekend. The other thing is, and I apologize, April, I just saw the letter from Joe about 2 hours ago about the parking, the free parking on Thursday and Friday. Thursday's a holiday, so technically it would be free anyway, so we're really only giving them 1 day free.
They're both holidays. We want to go follow the state rules. The state of Michigan.
Oh, so they would be free anyways. Oh, okay.
We wanted to let people know that, because most people wouldn't know that Friday is free.
Okay.
Yeah. Reminder that and people, even though on holidays, they don't often remember that parking is free.
Yeah, see, I didn't even realize that. I thought it was just Thursday that was free. I was wondering, is there any chance that we could actually do Saturday as free, since Saturday is Small Business Saturday, and that's actually a national thing that's promoted, which would encourage more people to come to Ferndale to the small shops rather than go back out to the malls. Just a thought I thought I'd throw out, and that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good to see you. Anyone else like to address council this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda are items that we consider routine and we enact in one motion unless council removes something from the consent agenda. And let me read that for you now. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held November 12, 2013. Item B is the adoption of a resolution of support for the move to amend campaign to call for an amendment to the Constitution to abolish corporate personhood and the doctrine of money as speech, as submitted by Councilmember Galloway. Item C is the approval of the Transportation Alternative Program Contract 135580 between the City of Ferndale and MDOT for sign and pavement marking work along Livernois from 8 to 9 Mile Road. And D is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the City Manager's Office, subject to the review of the Council Finance Committee. What is Council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Moved by Martin, supported by Galloway. Is there any discussion on any of the consent agenda items by council or anyone from the audience? Sherilyn, you want to call the roll?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to the regular agenda, item A is a consideration to recommend Alyssa Atkinson as a candidate for the Ferndale Youth Assistance Board. And Dan, you're on the Youth Assistance Board, so do you want to speak to the qualifications of this person?
Oh, I'd be happy to. Alyssa Atkinson is, I don't think she's, here, has been a volunteer for a number of different events. One of the cool things about this appointment is it's bringing somebody new in, and it's always good to get new blood on one of these boards. She has a strong interest in community development and recreation, and she's done some work with the organization in the past. So the Youth Assistance Board unanimously recommended that she be appointed. The process for youth assistance requires that both the City of Ferndale and the City of Pleasant Ridge approve her application, and then it goes on to the courts for final approval. So I would strongly like to recommend that we approve the application.
All right. Is that a motion?
I would move to approve the recommendation of Alyssa Atkinson as a candidate for Ferndale Youth Assistance Board.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Galloway. All right. Any discussion on this item? All right. Sherilyn, you want to call the roll?
Councilmembers Martin?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That appointment is adopted. Regular agenda item B is a consideration of second amendment to the Royal Oak Township Fire Protection Agreement. And April, are you going to introduce that item? Thanks.
As you know, we've been offering fire protection services to Royal Oak Township for, I believe, 9 years now. And they have, June of 2013, we needed to relook at the cost allocation for that particular contract. So both Chief Sullivan and I met with Supervisor Squalls in October to address the current contract and confirm that they did indeed have a budgetary amount set aside for fire protection for this next fiscal year, and they do have that, and we, during that process, discussed the total cost of their contract for this current fiscal year of $265,301. We are only going to do a year of cost allocation, and then we'll just keep revisiting that depending on their financial situation as we move forward, if they're going to continue with fire service with us. But at this time, it's their intention to continue to use the City of Ferndale this fiscal year and moving toward the future. So with that, I would respectfully ask that council approve our contract. They will actually be meeting tomorrow to approve the same contract.
All right. Are there questions of April or the chief?
I do. Just as a review, the clause of the contract, if the township finds themselves in financial straits again, what is our recourse during the tenure of the next year?
Sure. What our intention is due to the tenuous nature of their budget outlook, that they have to pay us the monthly payment on the first of each month, and failure to pay by the 15th of the month may result in us discontinuing fire service.
And then the contract for the extension is $30,000 less than what we currently charge them. Are we comfortable that this is an amount that's going to cover the costs? I mean, I know you can only predict based on the number of fires or emergencies they have, but we're comfortable with this amount?
We are.
Okay. I'm good.
I would move that we support a contract amount of $265,301.88 for fire protection services with Royal Oak Township through June 30th, 2013, and authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the attached second amendment to the fire protection agreement between the City of Ferndale and Township of Royal Oak.
Support. Been moved by Councilman Galloway and supported by Councilman Martin. Discussion on this item. I guess I would just say, we walk a fine line with our neighbors who are in financial distress, as defined by the state. They are now in a financial review situation. And so, as some residents may or may not know, we had to send them a letter in October saying we'd be canceling service. When they notified us, they would no longer be able to pay. But since then, we've met with them. We believe that they have an ability to pay, but we also have written into the contract, as Councilman Martin alluded to, that on a month-per-month basis, we can exit this contract, which was an issue for Oakland County, which provided police protection there, and got themselves kind of in arrears there that they'll have to figure out how to collect now. And so, as important as it is that we assist our neighbors, and we want to be good neighbors to them, and we want to assist them, and it's been a good relationship for 9 years, as I said, and I've made April aware before she negotiated it, our taxpayers can't be on the hook for subsidizing those services. So I believe this is a fair contract. I think going with 1 year is a good idea because we can assess the cost at the end of the year. We think this will be a fair cost, but we can assess that. So good job in negotiating this, and we look forward to another year of services with our neighbors to the west. If there's no further comments, Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana? I'm sorry, Mayor Coulter.
Yes, that item is adopted. Next item of business is consideration of a resolution authorizing travel for council member-elect Polika. Who's introducing that item?
Sherilyn? I can do
Is that
that.
a Sherilyn thing? He's here.
This is in accordance with the charter of the city that in order for a council member to travel and expend funds for training, council has to approve that travel. Councilmember-elect Polika is asking to attend the Michigan Municipal League's newly elected officials training that's in Huntington Woods in December, and then the Elected Officials Academy Corps Weekender program in Frankenmuth in, I believe it's February. These are both excellent programs that get newly elected city council members up to speed quickly.
Thank you for that introduction. Is there questions on this item?
A question and a comment. At the top of the resolution, it authorizes member-elect Polika to attend Michigan Municipal League Convention. It's not actually a convention, right? It's the training.
I'm sorry. That cut and paste was not thorough enough.
And just a quick comment, I went to both of these as well when I was newly elected, and they're invaluable. It's well worth the money to attend these.
And the total cost of both is $336? So
That's correct.
It's a very reasonable cost. We have a pretty small training budget, but it certainly can absorb $336, which I agree it's a wonderful program and well worth that. So is there a motion?
I would authorize the travel resolution for Councilman-elect Polika to attend the MML new elected training program in Frankenmuth.
Support.
Moved by Galloway, supported by Martin. Any additional comments or questions? If not, Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes. Thank you. That item is adopted. Item D is the consideration to amend the meeting schedule for December. And April, do you want to talk a little bit about the changes that you're proposing for the December meeting schedule?
Yes. As you know, we have a meeting scheduled, I believe, for December 9th and the 23rd. The 23rd of December is very, very close to the holidays, to the point that we feel at that point the business could be stymied just a little bit. So what we thought what we could do is to merge the two meetings together for the month of December to December 16th at 7:30. And we would have by charter, we have to have 2 meetings a month. So what we would like to do is it's time for the audit report as well. So at 7 p.m., we would have the audit report, which would be a special meeting, and at 7:30 would be the normal business meeting for the city of Ferndale's city council. So again, it's really just due to the mere fact of the 23rd being so close to the holidays. It just, most people are unable to attend that meeting.
Are there questions of April on this issue?
I would move that the city of Ferndale cancel both December 9th and December 23rd, 2013 council meetings and replace with a special meeting at 7 p.m. on December 16th and a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. on December 16th, 2013. To meet our charter requirements, this amendment of the rules of procedure is consistent with Section 8, Paragraph 2, amendment of rules, and shall be effective upon approval by a majority vote of council.
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Galloway. Any further discussion? Typically, I don't like to reduce meetings, but this is really in the interest of having more people be able to attend. I think I agree. The 23rd is a difficult day, probably, for most people, so probably get better turnout. That will also, by the way, be Councilman Galloway's last meeting. Is that correct?
That is.
All right.
Shortened my reign by one meeting here. Wasn't your idea, was it, Greg?
Doesn't come with a cut and pay, so you're good. All right, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. And finally, last item is item E, consideration to schedule an alley vacation public hearing for the December 16, 2013 council meeting.
That would be Derek, I believe.
Derek, you want to introduce that item?
At least I hope it's Derek.
Is that you to schedule the public hearing for the
absolutely.
alley vacation?
Yeah, we recently were petitioned by some of the residents who live. It's a residential alley adjacent to homes on both Channing and Silman. It does not go the entire block length. Nobody accesses their homes or their garages by the alley anymore. It's an unimproved alley. We did get a petition from the residents, all the residents who surround the alley, requesting that we vacate it. So we checked with DPW. There's no utilities or anything else that it would infringe on vacating it. So we're recommending it be vacated by the city.
And I would just say that this is a great example of an initiative that came from the residents, actually, and we looked into it, and it makes perfect sense. And my only question is, where does an alley go on vacation?
The property owners on either side.
But, all right. Is there a motion?
I would move that we schedule a public hearing for the Ferndale City Council meeting on December 16th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m., 300 East 9 Mile Road, relative to vacating those portions of the alley as described, approximately 273 feet of the 15-foot wide east-west alley in the block bound by Channing Street, platted as Evelyn Avenue to the north, West End Street to the east, Silman Street, platted as Maxwell Avenue to the south, and Wanda Avenue to the west, said alley, more particularly described as being bound by lots 245 through 253 on the north, a previously vacated alley, on the east, lots 399 through 407 on the south, with a 15-foot wide north-south public alley on the west, all in Ford Heights subdivision, as recorded in Liber 9, page 25 of Platts, Oakland County Records, and to direct the city clerk to publish the public hearing notice as required.
Indeed.
Support.
Could you repeat that?
No.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, the motion is adopted. We will do a public hearing at our December 16th meeting on that alley vacation. All right, next item of business is call to council. Police chief, you've been up a few times, but anything else for the good of the city?
Nothing additional, Your Honor.
All right, Derek, I've waited till you went all the way back to sit down to ask you to come back up. Anything from community and economic development this evening?
We have one thing tonight, sir. Recently, the city has posted a website, Ferndale Moves, and it is the draft transportation plan for the city that there's an advisory committee and staff has been a part of for about the last 4 months, and we would encourage everybody at this point to go out and take a look. The website is called ferndalemoves.com. What is posted out there currently is actually the draft plan in its entirety. Now, there's pieces that are still to come, implementation, program, and policies, but the plan does include what is the recommended draft road network for the city and future road projects for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So it is something we're actually quite excited about. It'll be presented to the Planning Commission coming up here in December. We'd encourage everybody to pay attention. But the website does include the network and a interactive mapping tool that allows everybody to make comment on what those draft proposals are, the road network, and really allows the residents of Ferndale and others to have a say in their future transportation network. So everything from road sections to crosswalks to transit stops to school connections are all there and available for comment. So we would encourage everybody to take a look, spend some time with it, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. So thank you.
Thanks, Derek. All right, appreciate it. Fire Chief Sullivan, anything for the good of the community this evening? All right. Lloyd, DPW, and you know what, even before you get started, I asked this 2 weeks ago, but I've still gotten a number of emails and questions from residents asking if the December 1st deadline is a hard deadline for leaves. I know this was a later year. I know it's frozen now, so could you address that? Because I'm still getting a lot of questions about.
You're right on both accounts. The thing that's impacted the DPW the most with the leaf pickup is that there was a late canopy drop this year, much later than last, and we also are experiencing below freezing temperatures, so that slows the whole process down. We're combating that by adding some additional equipment to scrape leaves and haul out larger piles. It is a work in process, so when the residents see the leaves more or less scattered, rest assured, Public Works will be back to run a sweeper or to run the regular leaf factor trucks. So it's just, don't panic, we'll be back to do that. This next coming week, we will be concentrating on the east side. We have finished up the west side, at least this round. And then the following week, which will be in December, we will be going back onto the west side. And then from that point forward, as weather permits, we will be doing spot checking and general cleanup. So, we anticipate it'll be 90% done in 2 weeks. And right now we're at probably a 65 to 70% based upon annual tonnage. So we're going to continue to be out there as long as the weather permits us.
Thank you. Appreciate the update. Joe, anything from your area this evening?
Yeah, we have a few parking program announcements to make. As stated earlier, we will not be enforcing parking for the Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday or Friday. This is in accord with the state of Michigan's observed holidays. The city does follow those same observed holidays. And secondly, on December 4th, next Wednesday, we will officially launch the Quick Zone program. So we will now be offering a select pilot amount of spaces, about 16 spaces throughout the Troy lot, the Withington lot, the Planabon lot, and those spaces are designated as Quick Zone. Quick Zones will be 30-minute parking. It will be free parking for 30 minutes or less, and that parking is purposed for patrons who might be visiting to pick up some takeout orders from our downtown patrons or to do some quick shopping at some of our great grocery stores or other merchant locations downtown. So we do have active enforcement for this program, so the hours that they will be enforcing will be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday between 4 and 9 p.m., and Saturday all day between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m.
30 minutes free parking in designated, and how will those spots be identified?
Those spots will be identified via signs created by our Department of Public Works. We will schedule the posting of those signs by next Wednesday morning, December 4th. Those signs will be up.
Great. Look forward to seeing that. When does that start, Joe? I'm sorry.
Again, Wednesday, December 4th.
December 4th. Thank you. Sherilyn?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Nothing this evening. Your work was, you had all this stuff last month. All right, April, anything from the city manager?
Sure, just a couple of reminders of a few meetings that our community might find important. As Commissioner Zach had mentioned, there is a rapid transit alternative analysis report on December 11th at Coolidge from 6 to 8 p.m. This is very important review of where we are with the alternatives analysis. In this particular area or that particular meeting is for the Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge residents.
And what time is that, April?
It's 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., December 11th at Coolidge Intermediate. We'll make sure we post it onto our website, other locations that folks can go to, but this particular evening will be focused on the areas of Woodward that are within Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge. Also, just a friendly reminder again, as we discussed during the meeting, that the meeting schedule for December has been adjusted for council. Again, December 16th will be the only meeting we will have in December. 7 p.m. we will have our audit presentation, and 7:30 we will have our regular meeting. That's all I have. Oh, and City Hall will also be closed on Thursday, November 27th, in remembrance of or recognition of Thanksgiving. 28th, I apologize. Thanksgiving is on the 28th.
And we're going to keep it short on the 16th because the Lions play on Monday Night Football. And that hardly ever happens. No. We'll do business quickly. Dan, anything from the city manager's office?
Mayor, I have nothing this evening.
All right. Dan Martin, anything from your...
I just have one thing. Once again, kind of a fun thing. Our friends Larry and Monica Mills are presenting it's the 80th anniversary of the end of Prohibition, and this is a great fundraiser on Saturday, December 7th, and it raises money for the Goodfellas. which is a great organization that helps families during the holidays. The participating venues are the Oakland from 5 to 6:30, One-Eyed Betty's, New Way Bar, House Bayou, Danny's, Dino's, Sneakers, and Valentine Distilling. So come as you are, or we encourage you to dress in your favorite 1930s flappers, rum runner, or other gangster paraphernalia. And once again, we'd like to thank the sponsors, but this is just a great event, a good time, and just a fantastic cause that the firefighters have been engaged in, and for a long time it helps a lot of families. So please come on out and celebrate the end of Prohibition.
Thank you. Councilman Galloway.
Not too much. Just wish the city of Ferndale a happy Thanksgiving and encourage people to shop local. I guess I was sort of thinking back on my 12 years again, as I have, and when I first got started here, you really couldn't shop local and get something for everybody, and I think it's a real testament to the businesses in downtown that you really can probably keep all your shopping to Ferndale and get something for everyone now, so it's a nice turnaround, so take advantage of it.
Indeed. Great, thank you. Just a couple things. We had as Chris Hughes mentioned, we had a real nice time lighting the official holiday tree for Ferndale on Saturday night. It was really cold, but really fun, and it is the official kickoff to our holiday season. And so I'll reiterate: support our local businesses; they could use the help. And lastly, I would just like to mention, so in our January meeting, council appoints itself to various boards and things, and we sort of set the schedule for the year. One of the things that some of us have been mulling over is the possibility of moving our meetings to 7 p.m. instead of 7:30. It strikes some of us that might be a more convenient time for residents in the community. That's obviously more than a month away to decide, but I guess I'd like to throw that out there and encourage residents to think about that and react to that. And I see Joe, maybe you could even post something on Facebook and begin to get some reaction to the idea of changing our meeting times to 7 p.m. next year instead of 7:30. So I'm throwing that out there to percolate and think about, and contact somebody on council or somebody on staff, or respond to Joe's post on Facebook and let us know what you think about that idea, and more to come. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.